Life Audio.
When did we stop being human? When did we stop seeing each other? Why did he think to say he would waste my time? It just saddened me that we're at a pace where we can't help our neighbors.
Looking to grow your faith but short on time? The Holy Reads app is your answer. With over 1,000 book summaries, daily devotionals, and more, you can find inspiration anytime, anywhere. From parenting tips to theological insights, Holy Reads has something for everyone. Want to deepen your connection with God? Holy Reads offers a wealth of resources to help you grow spiritually. From scripture-based content to soothing meditations, you can find peace and purpose in your daily life. Holy Reads is more than just an app. It's a community of faith. With 23 categories, you can find resources that speak to your heart. Join 350,000 Christians who use Holy Reads daily. Download Holy Reads today and start your spiritual journey. That's HOLYREADS. Download the app today. Hello and welcome to the Encourager Podcast, where we have encouraging conversations to help you joyfully harmonize your home and work life. I'm your host, Rebecca Scott. I'm a wife, mother, designer, coach, and author. I'm here to help encourage and empower you to confidently make decisions that work for you and your stage of life, whatever that might be. Hello, encouragers. On today's podcast, we're going to talk about why reflection and intention, I truly believe, are paramount. They're two really beautiful words, if you ask me. I didn't always used to be, but in the last 10 years or so, I've been really good about reflecting on things because I realize if I don't, I just continue to make the same mistakes. So it's important to reflect, and also because of my need to accomplish and overachieve and all of that, if I don't reflect and recognize the changes that I have made, somehow I just work harder and harder without recognizing, wait a minute, maybe I have arrived at the place where I wanted to. And then also, I love being intentional about things coming. And that is a word that I've been learning how to coach on because it's been something in me since I was little. My mom would introduce me and say, this is my very intentional child. So if you're going to get involved with her, be prepared. She is very intentional. And so I didn't know how to take that at the time. I'm still a little bit unsure about it, but I love and adore my mother. We have a great relationship, and it has served me well in businesses and in family to be intentional. So when I listen to things and when I learn things, I tend to apply them pretty quickly if they do align. And so that also, the alignment part brings me into a little bit about what we'll talk about today. So it's a little bit of a reflection of 2024 and my intentions for 2025. So a little recap of just in general. This year we have been married 21 years. We got married super young. Our son Gus is now 18. Iverson is 14. Rosalind is 12. And Pixon is 9. And RSD, my purse and accessory business, turned 20 years this summer. And the Encourager Podcast is 10 years old. Those are two big milestones that are worth celebrating. And a little bit more details about the kiddos. Gus is graduating in May, which that's its whole own set of duties, if you will. I would much rather it was about just like a checklist, but turns out there's some emotions around it. And so in my typical Enneagram 3, I'm just in denial because it's a really beautiful place to be until you don't want to feel all the emotions around it. But I've had some really good advice from friends who have already been through this that were like, I really found it beautiful to watch them graduate and see my job well done and the intention that I had in that child and to watch them fly. And so I'm trying to lean into that and less about the sadness of it. So I'll keep you in the loop. I mean, I'm human and I'm a mother. So there is that. But he will be graduating in May, and he plans to play college football, and he's looking at a couple different schools that want him, and hopefully construction or engineering or something in that line. But he definitely wants to play college football, and we will cheer that on because he's my favorite player. Imagine that. But I love watching him play.
Iverson had some changes this year. She changed schools to Minnesota. We live here in South Dakota, and Minnesota for us is literally 200 yards away. Like our gravel road is half Minnesota, half South Dakota. Fun fact. And a mile south of us is Iowa. So we live right on the tri-state border there, and she was just wanting a change. And it was interesting to walk through as a family because, we just grew up where you go to the same school from kindergarten to senior, and that's not the case anymore for a lot of different family scenarios. And so we decided the best thing for her was to move schools, and it has been a good decision thus far. Okay, and then Rosalind is a sixth grader. She's in a really good, sweet period of life. She is 12 years old. It's just kind of a good coasting period for her. My husband says I dumped all my DNA into her. So she has a sense of humor. She's very driven. She's intentional as well. She's making lots of friends. And she's still our animal lover. If it's got hooves and it runs or fur, she is all over it and loving it. Pixon Jane is our third grader, and she also has a new school this year because her elementary school in Valley Springs, South Dakota, closed last year. And that was such a sad thing. It was in existence for 102 years, that elementary school. In fact, Pix was fifth generation to attend there. So it was very heartbreaking for our family because it was just sad that that era had ended. I was really nervous. I would love to say I was prepared, but I wasn't. I was very nervous for her new school and just how that would operate because that elementary school set up all of my kids, I think, for the most success they could possibly have. And the transition has actually been really good. And she adores her teacher. She's fantastic. So after a lot of prayer, I had to reflect on wait a minute, the transition was very smooth. And she loves her school. So that was part of the reflection where I was like, I was so worried about it. When I look back at my prayer journal, I'm like, oh man, I really sweated that. And it has been very smooth for her. So I was the one with all the feelings, but Pix has just rolled with it. And it's actually been a good transition. As far as a personal reflection, some of the standout moments for me in 2024 was my girlfriend relationships. A couple years back, maybe 2 or 3 years back, I started asking God for girlfriends. I have my twin sister who's I always call her my built-in best friend, and she is certainly Sarah Bear. I love you. But I needed some girlfriends that were closer. Sarah's just a little bit further away, but only a phone call away, and we do that frequently. But I wanted girlfriends in my same school district. I wanted girlfriends down the gravel road and that sort of thing. And I got them. Again, when I'm reading through my prayer journal, I'm like, oh my word, God has set me up with so many beautiful friendships right here close to me that are real mat carriers. I heard this concept in the fall where it was like, who are your friends that will carry your mat? And that's a story from the Bible where the friends are desperate to get to Jesus and they carve a hole in the roof and carry their friend down on a mat. Who are your friends that would do that? What a beautiful analogy, and really reflecting on, do I have those kind of friends in my life? And if not, start praying about them. Ask to be intentional about them. Seek out people who align with what you want, who God has in front of you, who God has planned for you. So it's been a really cool thing to reflect and go man, I have those friends now. So thank you, Jesus, for those friends. Also, I got to run in a cool project with Sarah Bear. We've done a half marathon together, but this year we did 4.37 miles in what was called the 437 Project in South Dakota here. And that means from the west side of our state to the east side of our state, it's 437 miles. And there's this nonprofit organization that runs it in kind of a relay form to raise money for suicide prevention. And that, of course, is part of our story with my oldest brother. And so being able to run with that with Sarah was super emotional. Even my daughter Iverson ran in it too. By the way, she creamed us. So we only ran 4 miles, 4.37 miles, but there was a larger group that was selected by the state to run the 437 miles. I put my application in to be a part of those runners to run the state, and I got turned down. So that's okay. They invited 12 amazing, amazing runners. I think there was over 100 applications for it. I'm going to keep trying to apply because I think it would be really cool to be a part of the project. But I did get to do the small local part of the project, and it was very meaningful. And also, I looked at exercise different this year, kind of over the last 18 months. But exercise is more of a way of living and a way of staying healthy and less about the vanity of it. I love a challenge. I'm the one who did 13,000 burpees in 1 year. I love challenges. Or I did, I don't know how many pull-ups I got up to in 6 months. And I had some shoulder stuff, so I had to stop the pull-ups. I've done 15-minute planks. I've done all these challenges, and I do still enjoy that. But my focus and intention around exercise has been different as a way to fuel my body, as a way to honor my body, and less about accomplishing It's a very slight shift. And believe me, you guys, I still love a challenge and I still love a burpee. But the shift has been intentional, and I do appreciate it, giving myself a little bit more grace when I don't accomplish a workout for the day. And then also another personal standout thing is that I did start working with Dr. Lauren, who we have had on the podcast here, fantastic doctor right here in Sioux Falls with called the Britt House. And it was interesting to make an appointment for myself other than hair, to make an appointment where she took a look and I could be honest about what's going on hormonally, what's going on with my age, what's going on with my mood, and just to like make some intentional steps forward with my health. Because I'm a fairly healthy person. But it was really good to have my own appointment and somebody to say like, hey, is this normal? It was just so good. So I highly recommend that. Find your own doctor, ladies. Make your own appointment. I know we have to make our own appointments, but follow through. Take care of yourself. For my family life, when I was reflecting, I told you Gus is turning 18. That means we're kind of parenting in a different way as well. We read this really good book called Parenting by Andy Stanley, and it was so good about the different stages of parenting. And one of them at the top stage when they're about 18 is called the coaching or the friendship phase. And this is where it's less about parenting them and more about coaching or becoming their friend. Now, he's a tender 18. I don't even know if tender and 18 belong in the same sentence, but I'm going to say that. Like, to me, he's still young, of course. And they're still, like, they're 18, right? So there's still some moments where, like, okay, he's not quite adult thinking yet. But for his age, he is fairly mature in what he has been through, which I'm praying and hoping someday he will tell his testimony. But anyway, so he is mature, but we are looking at parenting him different. And so it's more of like, hey, how did that go? And then if he asks us questions, it's like, well, this has been my experience, but what are you thinking? So it's more of an exchange of ideas and less about you need to do it this way. And more of like, well, this is what I have done. This has been my experience. What are you taking away from it? It's really, really nice. And it's great to have conversations with him now because he has experience as well. Not that we didn't value his experiences, but it's just a slight shift again in seeing him as a young adult and being in the coaching friendship stage.
Looking to grow your faith but short on time? The Holy Reads app is your answer. With over 1,000 book summaries, daily devotionals, and more, you can find inspiration anytime, anywhere. From parenting tips to theological insights, Holy Reads has something for everyone. Want to deepen your connection with God? Holy Reads offers a wealth of resources to help you grow spiritually. From scripture-based content to soothing meditations, you can find peace and purpose in your daily life. Holy Reads is more than just an app. It's a community of faith. With 23 categories, you can find resources that speak to your heart. Join 350,000 Christians who use Holy Reads daily. Download Holy Reads today and start your spiritual journey. That's HOLYREADS. Download the app today.
This is different, but when I was reflecting on our family meals and our family system and our food system, which I will be doing on my annual retreat that I highly recommend. You guys, I do have a podcast about your annual retreat. I highly encourage you take this. In fact, someday, I'm going to say it on the podcast here. I'm going to build an Airbnb, a little tiny home for a woman to have a solo retreat once a year. I'm going to do this, you guys. It's been on my vision board for quite some time. Anyways, I go on this annual retreat. I will be planning out more of my food system and family system. So I'll follow up with that because I'm recording this before I go on my retreat. Our food system changed this year. For one, it changed because I had to feed Gus because he had to gain weight for football. Do you know how hard it is to gain weight when they have a metabolism like that? I'm just glad we are producers of beef because the kid ate and is still eating and eating and eating. Anyways, I normally do my food system. I make my decisions I always recommend for you guys, make your food decisions by 9 a.m. Well, I make mine by around 7:30 a.m. Sometimes I get the ingredients out. Sometimes I make it. A lot of times I used to just make it so that it'd be ready. And then I could have another hour in the studio sewing in the later afternoons, But this year, I could not get the meals done before 7:30. I could make the decision, but I couldn't prep any of the food other than laying the ingredients out. I could do that, but I wasn't able to make the food like I used to do. And that was because there's 4 exits this year when the kids get out the door. So for example, Rozzy gets on the bus, then I wake up the 2 other girls, Iverson gets on the bus, then I get Pixon to school, I have to drive her to school, and then Gus leaves. And those 4 exits from our house take so much transition time. So I was not able to make the food in the morning like I normally would have been. So I started making more 5 o'clock meals. So it's been an adjustment, but I kind of liked it. It feels like when the kids were really young and I couldn't wait to get in the kitchen just to kind of like get them playing and doing something while I was in the kitchen. So it's a slight shift. I'm still making the decisions at 7:30 a.m. for me, but I'm not making it until 5. So just a slight shift as I was reflecting. And it's okay. I mean, it is what it is this year. I don't actually like it, but it's not too bad. I'm really looking forward to being able to have it done and not think about it at all. Some things that helped us this year as I was reflecting, really stay connected as a family, because like we said, we have now 2 different school districts, a son who's 18 who has kind of his own like planning for his college stuff. And so sometimes it would be easy to feel disconnected if I wasn't intentional. But some things that helped us stay connected was 2 resources that I do have on my website, theencouragerpodcast.com, and that is the Honey Huddle. That is like a meeting you can have with your spouse to just really be on the same page every month. I highly recommend it, you guys. I have a ton of podcasts on it. Do the Honey Huddle, and then also my weekly agenda, which was created by my assistant, Angie. And it's why I don't have a planner. I don't carry a thick planner around. I carry around the sheet of paper that has my week on it. I fill it out per day. I use that a lot. It helps me stay connected because I have both home and work life on there. So then I know like, okay, we're going to Rosalind's game, and then we're going to Gus's game, and then we're going to, like all of that. But it helped me stay connected to both working the home and work life together. Also, suppers helped us really stay connected. The suppers look different this year a little bit because we might not have all 6 of us at the table. But even if there was like 3 at the table, I'm the nerd who set out the placemats and stilled the dishes. I know it's a little weird. But I've always held this truth that I read years ago. I think even before I had children. It was by Dr. James Dobson, that the meals around your table will be some of the biggest memories your children have and will reduce stress and addictions in your children when you sit them at the table. And for me, I was like, noted. And I ate at the supper table at my mom and dad's frequently as a kid, and my mom always got the placemats out. If you are taking away from this that you need to have placemats, please don't. The intention here is to have supper and to be around a table or an island table or whatever that looks like for you guys, but to be in communion with one another and to connect with one another. And so we did still have our suppers, not quite as frequently or as many guests or at least as many family members, but we still had them. Another thing we did was game nights on Sundays. That's another thing we did when I was growing up. So it might be a board game. It might be a card game. I really enjoy that. The kids will always remind me, Mom, it's game night. It's Sunday. So that's been really fun to stay connected. And then we also started cleaning on Sundays. We used to like kind of do it every day, and I would set an alarm for chores. It just was not working. Nobody was home when the alarm went off and I was at the basketball game. The chore time used to be at 5:30 no matter what, but there's just too many activities. And so now we just clean on Sundays, and that's just where we're at. And a part of me feels guilty because that should be our Sabbath day, but it just is. It just is where we're at. It takes us an hour and a half. Thankfully now we don't fight about it. It used to be an hour and a half of a lot of fighting because we're human, you guys, but now it isn't. We got the rhythm down. We know the list. We get it out. Everybody does their thing. And oddly enough, even the cleaning makes us stay connected because when you're done, there's a sigh of relief. Mom's not angry. Dad's done with his chores. Let's play a game together. And as I reflected on the business this year, I did record that podcast, A Messy Middle. I do encourage you to go back and listen to that. It was a really wonky year for my retail brand. Some things that I did not expect to happen, like celebrating 20 years, but having one of our worst sales years. And there's a lot of factors in that, so you can listen to that. But that was something that I reflected on where I'm like, okay, this year is going to be different. I am going to do some more art shows this year. It's the cheapest way of advertising my business, and that I get to have that one-on-one with the customers, which is important for me at a heart level to connect with these women, to help them get a purse and accessory that says something about them, to watch their eyes light up, to watch them ask questions, to teach them how to create, to have joy. I want to do that. So I'll be traveling for more shows after I reflected on like, okay, this is a change I could make. Studying data. I studied so much data this year, of course, because of the sales, that I got really good at recognizing patterns and what was and wasn't working, and not carrying something on for the complete contract if it wasn't working. Being bolder about saying like, this is not a win-win for both of us, and negotiating contracts with any platform that I tried or any program that I tried. I just got much better at studying data this year, and I'm pretty proud of that because it taught me a lot of skills. Also, the other thing I did in the business reflection, which you could listen to the business part of this in that Messy Middle podcast if you're more interested, is really concentrating on the next 90 days instead of the next year. Believe me, it is important to plan out your year, even up to 3 years. But the 90 days was so much more tangible for me when things felt so uncertain. And 90 days, there's a lot of things you can do in 90 days. So I did love doing that this year as I reflected. And another shift, I don't know if this belongs in personally or business or family, but it belongs in all of them. I had a shift in my mindset of worship over worry. I wouldn't say I'm a worrier by nature because I am an overachiever by nature. So I'm like, oh, let's do this. We're going to push through and do all this and we're going to force this, which makes me sound very forceful, but I get things done and I can encourage. We know that. And sometimes I need to stop and rest and ask God, all times ask God for direction. And if it felt forced, I would have a moment of like, hold on. Or I was stressed about something. So I was like, okay, well, let's do this and this and this and like all these workarounds. I really concentrated on holding my hand and my palm open. Visually, you would see me underneath my desk with my palms facing up. I'm open, God. And I'm going to choose to worship over worry. And I'm going to choose to seek out where I see you, where I feel you, where I hear you. All of those things. Even my voice slows down thinking about it. It did help. And that shift, while subtle at first, is major now. So I go into worship quicker than I go into stress or force or worry. That was a good shift. My intentions for 2025. Oh, well, I love intentions. Now, I have not had my annual retreat, so stay tuned to the podcast because I'll probably have some thoughts afterwards of like, okay, this is going to be my word for the year. But so far, I do know this. On my heart for 2025 is even more family time as Gus is getting ready to leave the nest, more worship, as I just mentioned, and more data as I go through yet another retail year of figuring out what is the best fit for Rebecca Scott Designs and how to move that company forward. Another thing I'm going to be intentional about this year is theology and apologetics for my faith. And those are such huge subjects. I'm going to be intentional about them, but it's going to take some planning because, first of all, they're big words, theology and apologetics. I just want to be able to answer the simple questions people ask about our faith and why we are so faithful. And what is it that I can do to stand really firm in my faith and in his truth? I want to be able to spot the lie very quickly because I know the truth so well. And that is something that will apply for generations to come with my children and their grandchildren and on, so that they would know Becca knew the truth and she could spot a lie. And that makes it sound like it's reflecting back on me. So that's not what I mean. It's like, oh, this is what she wanted. But I want to be able to spot the truth so I can show my children how to spot the truth. How to know when it is a lie, how to know when it's what the world is telling you, not what God is telling you, and stop going so much on feelings, on your heart. Like, we got to know the truth. And so that is studying some theology and apologetics. A practical way of breaking that down, I will think on that during my retreat, but I think it will involve some books and some study plans. Because if I'm going to do this, I want to be intentional and I want to be able to have a guide and cross off some things and really think about it and apply the time to it. So stay tuned as I kind of unpack what that'll look like for 2025. I want to be intentional about growing RSD to a sustainable pace and a revenue that sustains both my team and my family. So like we would get at a pace where I'm not so stressed out anymore. I would be a part of programs that are moving the brand, that I would get new customers. I'm not sure, again, what that looks like just yet. We have a couple programs in the work, but I don't want to talk about them yet because I don't know if they're working yet. So I like to tell you guys what we're working on and what I've seen results in. So I will be sharing more of that maybe halfway through the year. And I'm also, this is an interesting one, I'm also going to be very intentional about being interruptible. Yeah, I'm going to make that word up, interruptible. A ton of Jesus's miracles, he was interrupted. And while we are supposed to be like him and he lives inside us, how often, my personality, am I intentional about getting things done and accomplishing things, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it has made in my own head me less interruptible. And Jesus was interruptible. And I want to be able to pause and stop and say, whoa, hey, hold on a second. This human needs our help. This situation needs us. And I'm really going to be intentional about being able to be interrupted, not so solely focused on what is in front of me, but having more eyesight to see where we need to serve and help people. I had a scenario in Walmart the other day that I thought, oh my gosh, this is what he's talking about. I was in there buying cold meds for Nick. And you know what it's like when you go to like a Walmart or a Target and the medication is like, oh gosh, I bet there's 1,000 different options, right? Where there's this little guy in there and everybody was on their phone in the aisle. There's probably like, I don't know, half a dozen of us in the aisle looking at our phones and then looking at the aisles, I mean, I had my phone, but it wasn't in my palm of my hand. So I was looking for the cold meds. And I think he looked at me because I was the only one not looking at my phone. And he said, I'm trying to find pain reliever for nighttime. And he said, do you work here? And I said, no, I don't, but I can help you. And he said, oh, I don't want to waste your time. You don't need to do this. I don't know why this makes me emotional, but I just thought, when did we stop being human? When did we stop seeing each other? Why did he think to say he would waste my time? It just saddened me that we're at a pace where we can't help our neighbors. So I said to him, of course I can help you. Yeah. And he knew what the bottle looked like. But he didn't understand that the bottle might have changed because it had expired. He was out and it had expired. So he was like, well, this is what the bottle looks like. It's the Equate brand, which is a Walmart brand. So that would be difficult. So I had to ask him a few more details. Like, okay, so it's for nighttime pain. Do you remember if it's ibuprofen or acetaminophen? And forgive me if I'm saying those wrong. So he could tell me a few more. And then we looked and, it probably took longer than 5 minutes, but who cares? Who cares? I was late to my next thing. Who cares? This human needed help, and he really did need help. We couldn't get any help from anybody else. So we found it, and you wouldn't believe the look on his face. And this was during Christmas time, and we hugged each other because it was a victory for both of us. I found the cold meds that I needed for Nick. He found the pain meds, and he said, thank you so much. And we wished each other Merry Christmas. And I was like, gosh, that's what God is talking about. That is what he's talking about when he's like, see my humans right in front of you. God, Jesus served his neighbors frequently. Well, yes, it is great to serve overseas and send your money and do a part of all those nonprofits and those organizations. But what about the person at Walmart who just needs help? It's just your neighbor. So it was just a very clear of okay, God, yes, the intention for 25, I'm going to be interrupted a lot. Okay, that wraps up. We've got some reflections from 2024. A little bit about how to be intentional for 2025. Of course, keep listening to the podcast this year. We're going to have loads of good episodes coming your way that some of you requested, some that I've been passionate about. I want to start writing about and living so that I can tell you all about them. As a bonus, we did create a reflection guide for you to sit with. Maybe it's during your annual retreat, or maybe it's on New Year's Day, or maybe it's with your family, or maybe during your honey huddle, whatever it might be. I do encourage you, get this reflection guide. We have it at the encouragerpodcast.com, or make sure you sign up for our email list. We send out an email with these resources on there so that you always have them. Do highly encourage doing this. Reflect on what your year was like. Mark some of the successes, mark some of the setbacks. Maybe you don't want to call them setbacks. Maybe you just want to mark down what the lessons were, whatever that looks like, and then plan out and be intentional for the year ahead. Do not have another year go by where you're like, well, that was just a repeat of the one before. It doesn't have to be. Be intentional. Pray about it. Ask for conviction. Ask for how to be intentional. Ask to listen to where he is guiding you. And one more bonus. If you would like to be more intentional on your systems that we talk about frequently, I do highly encourage you. Prayerfully consider downloading the Encourager Academy. It's $97. It's 8 different modules. You can consume the whole digital course in less than 6 hours. Then you can decide from there first of all, you're going to make a ton of progress on the systems because you have guided worksheets with all of them, and they are particular for you. So you can absorb the Encourager Academy, take that, start making some drastic changes. You don't even have to say drastic because of course, I did 1% in there too. I did here's the 1% option, here's the 100% option. Make these changes. And if you find that you want accountability next to all these changes you've made, then you need to join our Encourager cohort. Super excited about that. Our first one starts on January 8th. That's a couple days from when this podcast is released. We will be doing another cohort shortly after that. And I'm super excited for the students that are already in it. We're going to have the accountability married with that Encourager Academy so that you start implementing them with me holding your hand and cheering you on. It's going to be awesome. Check out both the Encourager Academy and the Encourager cohort at theencouragerpodcast.com. Okay, encouragers, until next time, we got this because he's got us. Thanks so much for tuning in. If the Encourager podcast has helped or encouraged you in any way, please subscribe to the show and leave a 5-star review. And then help us spread the message of encouragement and hope by sharing the podcast with others. Ready to bring more organization and joy into your life? The Encourager Academy helps you harmonize your home and work life through our online course and coaching programs. Our 5-system approach, me, food, family, work, and home,
tackles your biggest obstacles, offering lifetime access to video lessons and guided worksheets. Learn at your own pace with practical tools and strategies. Enroll now at encourageracademy.com and use code WeGotThis for $50 off. Are you ready to finally create systems that help you thrive in both home and work life? Join my 10-week coaching cohort designed for busy women like you. Together, we'll create customized, foolproof systems for managing your home, business, and personal life with joy and purpose. With live coaching, practical tools, and a supportive community, you'll leave feeling organized, confident, and in control. Don't wait. Spots are limited to 10 women. Visit encouragerpodcast.com to apply.
Hello, my name is Adam Comer.
And I'm Ryan Chittister.
And we're the host of Life After Addiction podcast. If you or someone you love struggles with addiction, check us out, Life After Addiction podcast, and you can subscribe at lifeaudio.com.